Good evening, FASA family. My name is Lauren Chua. I'm a rising sophomore majoring in mathematics and statistics, and I am running for the position of vice president for the 2018-2019 school year. Before I begin, I want to start with a story about how I got into FASA. I came into college as a small freshman who pretty much kept to herself. Every day I would wake up to go to classes, get food at some point, walk back to my dorm, and stay there for the rest of the day. At that time, I knew about FASA from other people in the organization, so I knew about the GBMs and the events they held. Sorry.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. I saw this and I was like, what the
She's
heck?
standing.
You're gonna stand up. You're gonna
Wow.
speak louder.
At that time, oh wait.
Or louder, not higher.
Oh my god. But I always either came late or not at all because I felt intimidated by the other people and honestly, I was scared I wouldn't fit in. I feel like I would have continued that way for much longer if it wasn't for one or two people who always talked to me, really tried me to get to participate more in events, and eventually even encouraged me to interview to be a freshman rep. I'm so thankful for that now because after I got the position, I got to know so much more of my freshman class and found, as cliche as it sounds, a family. As I fulfilled my duties throughout the year, I found it so satisfying to see how the freshman class, which was divided at first, not knowing each other and keeping to their own small groups, come together and bond over preparing for Halloween, cooking for Spam and Egg Night, and baking for competition bake sale. And now looking back to where it all began with that one person just pushing me to participate in more events, I want to be that one person, to not only help the freshman class in finding their family as the freshman rep, but to extend to all the classes in FASA, helping them to form close connections as the vice president. Now, I know what you're thinking. What is this tiny freshman doing trying to run for vice president so early in her college career? But let me tell you, I know I have what it takes for these small feet to fill such big shoes. To begin, although my now one competitor is a year older than me, so he's had more experience or more exposure to FASA than I have. We both have the same amount of experience on FASA's e-board, 1 year. But what sets me apart is that for my role, I've worked so closely with my freshman class, planning Halloween and Spam and Egg Night, that I have an understanding of what new members look for in an organization and what events or aspects of an organization that gets them to want to stick around. This close connection I have with my freshman class helped me shape the ideas that I have for the Atikuya Auditing Program and what events to hold next year if I'm elected. But before I get to these ideas, I want to talk about more about my experiences that I'm going to bring to the position. In high school, I was part of an executive board for the largest organization in my high school called Minithon, where we planned events and fundraisers to raise money for pediatric cancer research. On the board, I was the hospitality committee leader, and my job mostly consisted of ensuring that the volunteers for our events knew what to do. So the experience I had on that executive board helped me to understand what it took to plan events and helped me develop communication skills through talking with so many different people. Another leadership experience I had was during Kistahan, where I was the assistant choreographer for Tinikling. I taught Tinikling to the dancers whenever Charlotte was unavailable, which ended up being for an extended period of time.
I get it.
Okay, as I said before, I have so many ideas to bring back to FASA after being on e-board for a year. One of the duties of the vice president is to manage member recruitment and retention through the Atikuya Auditing Program. This program is so important, especially for the new members who are still unsure if they want to continue with FASA. And although this program has been so effective, looking at how many lifelong friendships it's already created, I feel like it has so much more room for improvement. One aspect that I will change in the program is the pair reveal. The reveal is a crucial part of the program because it marks the official start of the relationship between the newly formed pairs. However, sadly, it ends up being one of the only times for some of the pairs that they see each other. Both reveals throughout this past year happened on days where semi or piston practice was going on. For next year, instead of having faith that the pairs will bond at practice, which they can do any day after the reveal, I plan to make the reveal an actual event with a lineage game night or social outing to help solidify the pairs. One of the largest issues that FASA faced is member retention. Looking at the classes, the largest group is the freshman class, with every following class getting smaller and smaller, and with seniors being the smallest class. One of the reasons for this is that the people that the upperclassmen made connections with earlier in their college years have since then graduated, so they feel like they have less of a motivation to come back. Along with that, FASA has a tendency to repeat the same events because of tradition. But because the upperclassmen already went through those events multiple times over, they become less interested. To fix this issue, I will establish more social events catered to bonding between the classes, similar to the unstructured socials of Girls and Guys Night, and similar to the new event we're trying out this in a couple days, the Comfort Food Night, where the senior class and the freshman class are coming together to cook for the rest of FASA. Also, to help gauge what kind of events that members look forward to, I plan to bring back that suggestion box that was passed around that one GBM. Because it's unfair to limit the future events of FASA to only what eBoard comes up with. Another duty of the Vice President is to oversee the cultural aspects of FASA. In order to better educate the general body about the Filipino culture, I want to start with our GBM slides. Every week, we have our weekly Tagalog fix to teach the general body about the language. But I know we can extend our education of the culture to more than just the language. For example, for one of the GBMs I presented, since it was Halloween season, we focused on monsters. And to solidify what the members learned about them, we followed it with a relevant activity. If you guys don't remember, we had you guys make a skit based on the origin of the monsters. Next year, I plan to use the weekly Tagalog fixes to teach not only about the language, but about other cultural aspects, like the origin of the dances, or even about the historical events that happened around the day of that GBM. Another effective method of educating the general body about the culture would be to create more educational videos. We created a couple in the beginning of the fall semester, but we stopped making them after a while. I feel like that they definitely gave the general body a fun way to learn about the different aspects of the Filipino culture, but there's so much more we can do with them. If you don't remember, I made the I Heart FASA video and the Get Rid of Cable segment for Pistahan. And I hope to work alongside the media specialist this year. And with my video experience and working with the media specialist, I plan on bringing these educational videos back next year to teach members more about the Filipino culture and talk about maybe like the cultural norms, Filipino crafts, and maybe even superstitions Filipinos have. Not only did making the videos teach people about the culture, but they provided even more opportunities for anyone who participated in the videos to bond. FASA has done so much for me, pushing me out of my comfort zone, letting me experience so many different kinds of people, and giving me the opportunity to really express who I am. As FASA pushes me to be the best version of myself, I strive to push FASA to the best that this organization could be. Although I have only been in FASA for 1 year, I can say for sure that it provided a home for me. And because I love this organization so much, I want to improve it so that FASA can continue to be a home for people after me. Thank you, guys.
So in your speech, you said that one of the main roles of VP is for member recruitment, and you said that was through the Atiquiotic program. Do you have ideas of how to attain that without the Atiquiotic program?
Without the Atiquiotic program. So, as in,
like member recruitment and retention outside of the program itself, because there are moments where that program doesn't start yet. So what are you going to do during that time where?
As in like when events haven't even started yet. So,
Right, yes.
I mean, I would do what I've been doing as freshman rep. I would just, if I see someone who's like interested in the organization or like wants to get to know more about it, I feel like an important step would be to just start talking to them and like asking them to come back to events that we have planned in the future. Because I mean, I speak from experience. That really helped me want to join the organization, and I feel like having just one person tell them like that they want to come back, they're going to find that sense of belongingness in the organization that they're going to want to continue to keep coming back.
So this year they did a lot with the auditing program. However, a lot of her initial hopes and plans ended up falling through or didn't go as planned. Like you mentioned, the audit reveals had to be done at semi for Sahan, but actually they weren't supposed to be. And it sounds like you have a lot of plans of how you want to do it, but realistically, it happens that way because of people's schedules and whatnot. So how are you going to be flexible and I guess deal with that challenge?
One thing I was thinking of is mostly people are free Friday afternoons, and so even if practices happen that day, I kind of want that specifically Fridays to be one member or AKA pair reveals are, and if even if some pairs can't make it, I feel like if a majority of them can, then we should still push through with it.
Okay, so to keep that going, what would happen to the people who can't make it?
So, I mean, if we were to continue on with what we did this year, I feel like holding maybe more events such as the Lineage Olympics, but on smaller scales. As I mentioned, we could have maybe another Lineage game night where they could meet their pairs even more and compete with other pairs. And so even if they don't get to meet their pair at the initial reveal day, they can still have days in the future to catch up with them or get to know them better.
Do you have any plans to engage new members to kind of bond with us more? Because we have at GBM, we have a lot of new people that show up and we don't see them again after that single GBM. How are you going to try to engage and incorporate them into our family and see if we can make bridges and not burn them after one meeting?
I feel like that may be, as I said before, we should just go up to them and start talking to them. I feel like we didn't really do that much this semester, and I feel like that's a problem on eBoard's part. But that's not a bad thing, but we just should improve on it. And I feel like if we just go up to them and just tell them more about the events and really get to know them, see them around, we just say hi to them, then they're gonna want to come back to us, because especially those members, we just see them once, and even though we see them on the side, along academic row, we kind of don't just talk to them and don't mention about the events, and so they don't feel like they want to come back.
So along with AKA reveal stuff is a big deal, but you're gonna have to be the right hand person to the president. How will you be there with Kevin, Shar, right? Okay. How will you make sure your voice is heard? Because I know sometimes I'm not trying to throw shade at all. Just you're so you've been there, but what if the president or someone's idea is just not the best? Are you gonna how are you gonna go about that? Are you just gonna be hey, okay, we'll do it. Let's spend $10,000. Okay.
Well, definitely in that case, I would argue with them. But I mean, in all seriousness, if I have an idea that I feel would really benefit FASA, I would definitely try to discuss my idea and like the idea of the president or about what we should do to best.
Okay. I think my question is better asked like, are you okay with confronting?
Confronting.
Yeah.
Confrontation, actually, with something like not a shit.
Are you gonna let your ideas get pushed over?
Yeah. Yes.
When working on like some of the as Bea's intern, there were some times where I had ideas that we could implement in, for example, the FASA pesos, and I wasn't afraid to bring it up like. Wait, give me a second. Think about my answer. I wasn't afraid to bring up my concerns to Bea and Ruben when we were talking in the group chat, and I feel like I could do it because
Just say
You can
yes.
keep it concise, like you don't have to give like a long explanation.
Just say yes.
yes, I can do it.
Yeah, that's all you don't have to explain. Yeah.
I get our board, our year wasn't like perfect, far from it, but like, what are your goals as VP, as like the second chair to the e-board to help better that system? Like, what's your vision to better improve our e-board? Because I remember, I don't know if you know Kyle. So Kyle ran for VP. One of the things he talked about was how it stems from his e-board and how like if we have a working system, then everything else kind of falls into place. So how do you think like a good way to better our e-board based on what you see as freshmen?
Definitely one of the main issues from this past year on e-board was communication. And so whenever we try to ask questions, it would take like hours or days for some people to respond to our concern. And I feel like if we communicated better, then we can be more effective on e-board. But another issue we had was organization of events, and that plays along with the communication. When it's not organized, we tend to ask more questions, and when we can't organize or when we can't communicate with the people we need to ask questions to, then some events start to fall apart after that. And so I feel like if we plan events more in advance, then we can help amend those issues.
Great job. Like what's
She's saying.
question? Yeah.
I am very confident I can do my role.
What's the question? Sorry.
Like what makes you the best candidate compared to like?
What makes you more networks?
What unique qualities that you bring to the table that other people?
This past year, as I said, I was freshman rep, so I've had experience with what kinds of things that the freshman class, which are the new members of FASA, what they kind of want to see in an organization, and not bashing on like the sports court role or anything, but no offense or anything, but I feel like they wouldn't have much experience with like new members as much, and I feel like that the experience, it helps me figure out what kind of events to hold for the next year.
Got this, Lauren. Nice.
I have a question. Okay, so being VP is more than just you're responsible for more than just activity auditing and culture chair. You're also kind of an all-encompassing e-board member, and that you're up there with president leading this entire organization, not just e-board. So you kind of have to have a bigger picture in your head about like this organization and where it's going. My question is, what do you think is one of FASA's problems, and what do you think you can do to improve it?
Should we answer that?
Yes.
Yes.
Problems was member retention.
No, FASA, not e-board. Like this organization. Like being a general body member, not being on e-board. Like when people come to us, what do they see that's turn off?
Good answer, Sean. Good answer.
Okay. So not just e-board, like this organization.
Oh, yes. So, as many people are mentioning, the clickiness of FASA is a big issue. And I feel like that in order to help fix this, I feel like creating more events to help the members bond with each other would kind of give them experience, or kind of give them, well, just making events for people to bond with each other more, so that they kind of understand what each group or each clique is a part of, and at that point they can understand that not all cliques are completely different from each other, so that if they form those bonds with each other, they can hopefully it would amend the clickiness of this organization.
Some more events.
That specifically caters towards bonding between like the cliques.
So you said as a freshman rep, you have more experience tailoring events towards freshmen, correct? So that would help you more in vice presidency. And you said sports coordinators don't have much of a feel for that. But sports coordinators had to recruit members from all classes in order to create events and just right?
Excuse me.
So, as a former sports coord who knows all classes, how would you get member retention from the upperclassmen instead of just focusing on freshmen, because that's the goal of freshman rep, to aid in that. So who is there to get the upperclassmen to come back? And what would you do about it?
I, unfortunately, since I work so closely with the freshman class, I haven't had much time to work with the upperclassmen, and I feel like that's because of as I said before, the discontinuity between like the classes, and that's why I'm planning on focusing on creating events, as I said, to help the classes come together and make bonds.
You said you were going to create events, but like if they don't want to come out, I think he was asking like, how are you going to get them to come, basically. That's more of what he was asking, I believe.
Right, so yes.
It's just
Second time.
like you know, whether you're gonna like reach out individually to certain people, you know, I'm kind of like giving you answers, but you know.
That's a really good answer, CJ. I'm gonna take that from you.
Just take it.
No, but in all seriousness, I feel like, yeah, even though I haven't had much bond with the upperclassmen, based on the upperclassmen that I've already interacted with, I feel like that just, talking with them and like getting them to come out and
I will say, so she kind of touched on it from a different angle. I'm gonna actually for this again. She said that in her.
Why are we explaining for her? I'm sorry.
No, it's in her. It wasn't her speech. It's just so bad.
It's the truth, though. Like,
Okay.
okay, I'm sorry.
There's only two.
Okay, so in order to create events, as I said, to help cater toward the upperclassmen, I as I said in my speech, I will bring back the suggestion box for them to put down what kind of events they look forward to and maybe would come out to themselves. Create events based on those suggestions.
What strength do you think your opponent has over you? And like with that strength, how can you compensate for him?
Not being good.
Yeah.
Like not running.
One strength that was mentioned was that he's been in FASA longer than me, so he's had that time to create connections with the upperclassmen, and since he was sports coach, he had that time to connect with different classes. But as a sports, in his position in this past year, he's mostly focused on people who want to come out to sporting events, and I feel like FASA has more kinds of people than just those, and
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's good.